I didn't used to be the kind of woman that spun conspiracies around in her brain, like some kind of paranoid schizophrenic. It's not until now, with his blood on my hands, that I realize the monster he made me. I'm not supposed to be a killer. He's made me into something I was never meant to be. For many years, I tried to show him I'm worth loving, something of value, not unsalvageable trash. He was never convinced by me, though, and he always demanded that I change to become better suitable for his needs. Now, with it all over, I'm often asked how I took being with an abusive man. I tell them that it wasn't something that happened overnight. It began with a few muttered insults about me being too soft. His complaints got louder and more accusing, and I began to withdraw from the red-hot blaze that his rejection left on my heart. I loved him so much, and all I wanted was for him to love me as well. I was ashamed of myself for not being what he wanted. I blamed myself on the first night that he struck me. It began as one firm slap, while telling me I was being too unsupportive. His beatings got progressively worse. Late night hours spent laying his thick hands into my skin, wishing his reach could go further to reshape and bruise what I was on the inside. After all those nights, I finally became what he wished of me, hard and easy to work against his grasp. That's when he told me that I was being too hard and cold-hearted for him to find any comfort lying with me at night. He brought home other women, showing them his most vulnerable side to gain their affections, and then beating them senseless while begging for some resistance. He made me watch all this. I was always in the background, as silent as a shadow, praying that my silence would prove my devotion to him. With time, he threw all the other women away, like they were there for his disposal. Yet, he kept me always. Just as I was beginning to find clarity in the rose haze his presence left on me, he approached and showed me his sweet and caring side. He ran his hands along my cold, untouched skin and asked if I was still willing to cooperate. Oh God, how good it felt to have his attention all to myself. I grew hungry, and I was willing to promise anything, as long as he'd gather me up against him and make me his once more. The first hours were incredible, the sort of bliss he always denied me. But things turned suddenly as he woke. His sleep-distorted mind left him confused and angry, and he looked to me for an answer. His fist was illuminated by the silvery moonlight before it landed upon its final destination. With each withdrawn hit, he begged me to become just a little bit more malleable. Once I submitted to his power, he fell upon me. All the previous romance had disappeared in the feeling of his hot breath crawling along my skin. As his breathing softened in my ear, a brilliantly morbid idea fell into my mind. Normally, I'd have thought twice about hurting the man I had reserved all my heart into, but I was delusional and vulnerable. I covered his nose and mouth and felt relief awash over me as the fight dissipated from him. The weight of his dead body crushing against me felt better than it ever did when he was alive. I never felt remorse for what I had done until the police eventually arrived. Guilt washed over me like walking out into desert heat. They failed to notice me, though. All those years of disappearing from sight and angry mind finally paid off as the police tried to spin marvelous stories out of the crime scene. "No signs of forced entry," they called to one another, Looks like his pillow just had a vendetta and suffocated him in his sleep." They all chuckled darkly.